For those of you who are new to Blender, I'm going to quickly show you the basics. If you already know how to work with Blender, go ahead and skip to the next paragraph of this video. Okay, quick repetition here. Edit, preferences. Here you can adjust the settings of Blender. You can configure it the way you like. I personally have perspective and depth auto off, zoom to mouse position on, and make sure here in add-ons that you have the Explain 12 plugin installed and active. And I explain how to do that in the first episode of this series. If you start Blender, you get a cube, a camera, and a light. I will immediately tell you the camera and the light. Delete them, we're not going to use them. So here you see the cube, and we're currently in object mode, so we can manipulate the location of the cube. Here, if you press this little arrow on the right, you can see the location, the rotation, the scale, and the dimensions of the cube. So I can manipulate this. I can also go into edit mode if I press tab, and now I can manipulate parts of this object. So I can either manipulate vertices, like these little dots, these are vertices. I can manipulate lines, so I can select the whole line, or with shift I can select multiple, or I can select planes, so I can go like this side, and that side, and I can manipulate that. Starting with the G for grab, so I just go quickly into edit mode. I select a few vertices and I press G, and now I can move them around. I grab them and I move them around. If I left click on the mouse, I let go, and if I press Ctrl Z, then I reset my edit. I can also scale, so I press S and I scale them. I can do extrude, so I press the E and I extrude them. So I continue, I press E, and this way we can extrude a certain part of this. Okay, then delete, when I press X, and I can choose what to delete. So the vertices, the X, etc. So if I delete and then press, you see the underline here at V. So quickly delete, this is X, V, bam, and there we go. And you see I didn't grab everything. So I'll just do this again. X, V, and it's gone. I can manipulate this in several ways. I can grab this and move it over all axes. Here in the right you can see the X, Y, and Z axis, and I move this over all axes. But I can also grab this and move it specifically over one axis. For example, the Y, I can move it fore and aft only. The X, I can move it left and right only, or the Z, I can move it up and down only. It's nice for precise control. Okay, you may have noticed when I extruded this and then I deleted this, I only deleted the vertices that you can see. I missed a few on the back. So therefore we have something else, which is this button here. It's toggle X-ray, and if you toggle that, you can actually see what's basically make the bits transparent, and now you can see through it and delete, for example, all the vertices at once. Then there's shading view. We're currently in, well, I'll show you from the start. This is the viewport shading lines wireframe view. So I just see only the wireframe. The next one up is the, what's it called? The solid. I never used this actually, but this one is the material preview. This one is the one I use most of the time because you can also see the textures on this. And then the last one is the shading preview, the rendered preview, where you can see the combination of the textures and the lights. And for Explain, we don't need this because we're not going to do the lights, the exterior lights in this program, because that will be done by Explain in the simulator. So here the shading or material preview shading will be the most commonly used. Just make it a funny shape to show you. With the middle mouse button I can rotate and I can actually zoom in. But now you can see we're in perspective view. If I press num 5, we go into orthographic view. The other one, if you are completely lost and you want to find something, you select your object here on the right, and it's useful to name your objects because they're going to be called cube and circle and all that stuff. If you call this statue, and I find here, I search statue and I select this and I press now num delete, that will bring my camera view to the statue. Other way around as well, if I select here in the 3D world an object and I don't know what it's exactly, then I just go into the collection mode and I press delete and it will jump me towards the statue line there. Here we have perspective view and then orthographic view. Now if I press, for example, 7, I look from the top, and if I press 1, I look from the front, and if I press 3, I look from the left. And if I press Control 1, I look from the rear, Control 3 is from the right, and Control 7 is from the bottom. Alright, that should be enough to get you started and follow along the tutorial. Okay, now we're going to import reference images into Blender so we can start using that to build our fuselage. First, let's get rid of the cube, so I'll press X to delete. And D. You can see I've already cropped them to known dimensions. So on the front view we know the wingspan, so I've cropped them to the wingspan. And on the side we've cropped to the length overall. And on the top we've cropped to the wingspan and the length overall. Now to import these, let's show you. I'm going to add mesh plane. Now I have a new plane and we need to add a material to it. So here on the side you get the material tab. It looks like a little ball. We're going to do new, and then at base color press on the yellow dot, select image texture, and now open, and let's do front. Start with front, open. Now we have an image texture from the front, but it's not the correct scale and not the correct proportions. So let's do the proportions first. We look at the front image and right click on it, properties, details, and now we can see the dimensions. So this one is 1037 by 342 pixels. So we need to make our image in the same proportions. So I'll just do this in meters, for example. So let's say 10.37 meters by 3.42 meters. Let's not do 10 kilometers or 1 kilometer. 10.37. And now the image is in the correct proportions, just not on the correct size. You can see here scale is no longer 1, so I'm going to press Ctrl A and then scale, and that resets the scales to 1 for all dimensions. So now I can scale everything up and down until it fits. So we know the wingspan. Let's have a look in my notes here. The wingspan for this aircraft, we're going to build the original with the universal wing first, is 15.44 meters. So if I type here 15.44 meters, that works, but now the scale is the proportions are off, so I'm gonna copy the scale. I'm going to paste the scale with Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and now we have the correct scale and the correct proportions. Again, I do Ctrl A, set the scale to, again, Ctrl A, scale. That didn't work. I need to select my object, Ctrl A, scale, and now the scale is set to 1. That's the correct size, correct proportions. So now I'm going to lock the scale and it's going to save my proportions for the front view. All I need to do now is rotate it, so R 90 degrees. And let's see, is that over the x-axis or the z-axis or the y-axis? I think it should be the x-axis. And we'll put this in the correct place later on when we have the rest. So this is how you import the image. Now the last thing I want to do is the yellow dot here. That's our object reference point, which is now on location 000. I want my aircraft reference 0 point to be on that dot, so I'm going to go into edit mode. Make sure with A that I select all the vertices. I grab the image, grab with G, and I want to move it. I want to move it only over the Z axis, so press C and I move it up until it's exactly there on my reference point. And now I left click to make sure I'm out of the edit mode. Sorry, I can go out of edit mode with tab. So now my image is in the correct orientation and the reference point is also at the correct point. So now I have to repeat the process for the bottom and the side view. And the good thing is I've already done that, so quickly fast forward and there we go. Here's the front view and the side view and the top view. And with these images we can start building our fuselage. We're going to add a new object, so add mesh plane. Here's a plane. We're going to go into edit mode, press A, press X, delete all vertices. And now with control right mouse button, we can add vertices, and they are connected, and we're basically going to draw the outline of the aircraft. There's no need to be super precise for this yet. For example, I think the wing should be there-ish. I'm not going to exactly follow the fuselage here, but it's going to be good enough. So, if I misplaced it, obviously I can just press G to grab and then move it up. That's okay. Now come down about there, and now come to there. So I should just keep control pressed, right mouse clicks. There's no need for any super large number of detail. I just want to get started. We can add detail later on. So let's come up here. The last two, we'll just select the last two and press F. Oh, I should press F. Why is it not working? Sorry. The last two I select and I press F to connect the dots. So now we have an outline of our airplane. And to make it a 3D model, there's many different ways to do this, but I'm basically going to repeat the same process but now from the top. So add mesh plane, edit mode, A to select all vertices, X, V to delete all this. And let's start with a new object. You can see they're not aligned perfectly, but that's okay. I'm going to do this only on one side now, because they're symmetrical. Okay, and so now we have drawn this line from above, but if we look in the side view, it's not in the correct place. So now we can go back into edit mode, basically move this to the correct place. So every vertex, grab Z or Z, come down, grab C, come down, grab C, come down, etc. And this is how we put the line also in the vertical in the correct place. So here it becomes a little bit more complex, so we have to, do you know what, we're probably going to make this object, this underwater body, a separate object. Okay, let's fast forward through this process. You see that I make another object and repeat the whole thing for the deck line. And once we've completed this, I make a little backup, I save the file, and then I select all the 3 new objects and press Ctrl J to merge them together. Now that this is a single object, I've just renamed it Fuselage, we can start connecting to the dots to make this a 3D object. So let's go to side view and let's start connecting dots. So let's start with the nose, and usually you just connect 3 or 4, maybe more dots, but make sure they're like straight planes, they don't go into funny angles. So let's quickly look in 3D how this starts. This looks alright. Let's carry on. So we go into side view, connect the dots, connect the dots. Here's a dot missing. So now we just go to loop cut mode. So that's here on the left side, loop cut, and click, and we added the vertex and vertex. Now we go to box select and we can continue. Connect the dots, connect the dots, connect the dots, and let's make some more dots here. Something like that. Connect the dots, connect the dots. Cool. Here we go. Okay, so we have half of a fuselage without cockpit and without an underwater bit, but it's starting to look like a float plane or seaplane. Let's show you the. Okay, now let's mirror this to the side. So we go here to the wrench, add modifier. Now we can mirror this whole thing. Mirror. So you can mirror on X, Y, and Z, but mirror X in this case is the correct orientation. Now let's make a cockpit object. Actually, I'm going to make this a little bit simpler. Let's remove this do you know what? Before we do this, let's make it a separate object. So I'm just going to quickly select these vertices and I'm going to duplicate them. Do you know what? I'll do these as well. Duplicate, so Shift D, enter, and now press P to separate the selection. There we go. Now I have 2 objects. One of them is called Fuselage, which is this one, and the other one is called Fuselage 001, which is this one. Let's rename this Cockpit. There we go. And let's do the same with the underwater object. Right. Should be about it. So we're going to put our 3 objects that we made in a collection, and that collection we're going to call Fuselage. So right click here in collection, new collection. That's collection 6. That's going to be Fuselage. Right. Cockpit, fuselage, underwater part, all goes in there. Go to Material tab, New, Material, Fuselage, and let's make this, let's give it a color for now, gray. We'll do this here the same, Fuselage. We go to the scene properties, explain, and here we're going to add fuselage to our root collection. I'm going to give this a name. This is going to be objects fuselage. For now we're just going to export. First we're going to file, save, and now we're going to export the object. And let's have a look here, and now you can see we have a fuselage object.